What's up, everybody? I'm going to read the book of Kaliedy, the Gospel of Kaliedy, and I'm going to have it recorded on my phone like this so it's easier to understand. And I'm going to start uploading, starting over again from chapter 1. And here we go. The birth of Yahusha the Nazarite, who became our Adonai, interpreter of Elohim and the Torah, a worthy vessel for the greatest manifestation of the power of the Ruach HaKodesh, that is the Holy Spirit, seen on earth, occurred in this manner. About the time John the Baptist, or Yohanan the forerunner, commenced teaching the way of the wilderness beside Jordan, in the year before Herod died, when Augustus Caesar ruled the Roman world, a babe was born. The father was Joseph, son of Heli, a carpenter of Galilee, and the mother was Mary, his wife, who had been a virgin pledged to Yahweh and the temple by the father Simon, son of Joachim, son of Nathan, son of Eleazar. A decree had gone out that all who claimed kinship within the house of David should be gathered for enrollment at the city of David, called Bethlehem, in Galilee. Therefore, Joseph, being rightfully born into the stock of David, took the scroll of his parentage and went to Bethlehem, so his kinship could be established. Now Mary, being then heavy with child, longed in her heart to be among her kinsmen, and she prevailed upon Joseph to take her, for Bethlehem was only a day's journey from them. The two, with the servant, came to Bethlehem at eventide. But because so many had gathered, the inns were filled. Then, as Mary's time was close upon her after the journey, a man took pity on her and provided a cave used as a stable. There the travelers found shelter and rest. That night Mary's labors came upon her, and she suffered the pains of childbirth and cried out in pain. Nearby some shepherds were tending sheep, for in the midst of so many strangers, these needed protection, and hearing her cry, went to help. They provided a shepherd's basket, which was filled with straw, and placed it in the manger, and the newborn babe was wrapped in the clothes brought for him. After 8 days had elapsed, the child was named Yeshua, meaning one who saves, one who delivers, for a messenger of Yahweh had appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, "That which lies in Mary, your wife, is filled with the power of the Holy Spirit, and will respond to the hopes of men." Later, men called him Yahusha, and because he fulfilled their hopes and was anointed with the power of the Ruach HaKodesh, that is the Holy Spirit, he became acknowledged as HaMashiach, that is Messiah. Now, the stable was against a hill, behind an inn, where sages from the east were staying, men of Sestera, wise in the books of heaven, and of Nimrod, who carried the stake of fire. So Joseph sent for them, requesting they come and foretell the child's future. This was a custom. One of the sages said, "It is great indeed, for this child is born under no usual star, but under one that is a star in appearance only, and not in nature, having a power not in other stars. He is destined for greatness, and will motivate events touching the lives of all men." When the word of this was passed around, there was much excitement among those belonging to the house of David, and many remembering the prophecy of John, for they had passed his way, wondering in their hearts, "Is this not he whom we wait? The consolation for the Jews and the deliverer of man." This displeased the people of Bethlehem, who awaited for a different deliverer. When the sages spoke of the matter at their journey's end in Jerusalem, and word came of the excitement among those of the house of David in Bethlehem, there was great consternation among the priests and learned men. They tried to discover where the baby was, but the sages answered deviously and said, "His star points toward the east." An elder of the house of David, attending to blessing of the child on the 8th day, lifted up his voice and declared, "Surely this is he who has been promised to redeem us out of the hands of evil. This is he upon whom the power of the Holy Spirit will descend, bestowing strength, compassion, and wisdom. Surely he will be ruler in the reign of Elohim." When the sovereign had heard about these things, and that a baby had been born who many claim was destined to be the deliverer, he was greatly disturbed, and he summoned the council. With the council were learned scribes and elders who disputed among themselves concerning the babe. Some said that while Yahweh's anointed would be born in Bethlehem, the deliverer would not, for the birth of Yahweh's anointed in that place had been foretold by the prophets. Others said it might not be more than an enlightener who was expected to be born at that time. However, when many agreed that Yahweh's anointed and the deliverer might be the same person, the king sent 3 men to discover the child. The dispute before the council had been long, and Joseph had been warned. So, when the men sent by Herod came to Bethlehem, Joseph had left with his family. They went to the place where the kinsmen of Mary lived. The men who came did not search long for Jesus, for after the council had been dismissed, Herod slew the son who sat with him on the throne, and he had slain others of his own blood. Later, Herod died himself. But after these happenings, the Romans did not bestow the title of sovereign on any Jew, and it was unlawful for any man to claim the title. In this manner, the prophecy was fulfilled, which said, "A virgin shall give birth to a son, naming him Elohim with us. He will be the bearer of knowledge, discriminating between good and evil. But before this is given to the people, the land will lose its kings." When time had passed, Joseph and Mary came to Jerusalem and stayed at the house of a relative, a man strongly set against wrongdoing and well learned in the Torah. The 40 days having been accomplished for the purification of Mary, she came to the temple, and Joseph offered the prescribed sacrifice and dedicated the child. Hearing from Joseph and Mary the things which the sages had foretold about the child Yahusha, the devout man took the babe into his arms and praised Yahweh in this manner. "Because the things foretold have come about, your servant is prepared to depart in peace, for my eyes have been gladdened by the deliverer of my people, a beacon, light for others, and the glorifier of your name. He will teach all men the ways of Yahweh, and how to walk in his paths. So swords shall be made into plowshares, and spears into billhooks, and peace will reign over men." Joseph and Mary could not understand the meaning of this, and asked what was meant, whereupon the man replied, "I hold a sapling, which will grow into a sturdy tree, under the shade of which many nations will find peace.
Yet he will also test the strength of our people, tearing them apart in dispute. He comes as a separator, dividing the sheep from the goats, showing each his rightful place. He will place a sword in the hands of the weak and strengthen them, and the Belial will be smitten.
After complying with the requirements of the Torah of the priests, Joseph and Mary returned with the infant to their home in Galilee, a small place in a hollow at the foot of a hillside. There the child grew up, developing a strong body and a keen mind, for he was strangely talented. He was wise beyond his years and deft with his hands. And when old enough, he began learning the craft of plow making. His parents, following the custom, went each year to Jerusalem for the festival of deliverance. And when Jesus was 12, they went as usual, but this time, taking him and them, having remained the 7 days of the festival, Joseph and Mary set off to return home. But let the boy linger in Jerusalem, for a kinsman of theirs was also returning, and they thought Jesus was in his company. Having gone a day's journey and finding Jesus was not with his kinsman, they became perturbed, and at first light in the morning returned to Jerusalem. It was some time before they found that Yahusha, in a small outside room of the temple, sitting before an instructor of the Torah of the priests. His parents were astonished at finding him accepted among the learned men, and the teacher expressed amazement at the child's love of learning. But Mary scolded the boy for his inconsideration, saying, "We have suffered much during the search for you." To which Jesus replied, "Why search for me elsewhere, knowing I must concern myself with the work of my Father?" This saying disturbed the instructor. Neither could his parents understand the meaning of the reply, but they took the boy away with them. Henceforth he always obeyed his parents, but Mary kept these things in the storehouse of her heart. As Jesus grew up, his intelligence increased, and he was well liked by all. But he was a solitary child, much given to wandering.